Part 43. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 421. Zhang Lingxian squatted on the ground and shivered violently, but he didn't dare to doubt the authenticity of the sentence. No, Grandpa, I know. The box door was pushed open again. When he saw the person coming, Zhang Lingxian's eyes suddenly lit up. Grandpa prefers Su Ling'an, but her parents will definitely favor her unconditionally. Dad, Mom, help me quickly, I feel so uncomfortable, I'm bleeding a lot, I feel like I'm going to faint. Lin Yi also felt like she was about to faint. What is going on? Why does my daughter still have a knife in her hand? Is there still so much blood on the ground? Ignoring who else was in the box, Lin Yi turned around and yelled at her husband, "Call the emergency number quickly. Didn't you hear Xian say she felt uncomfortable and was about to faint?" Zhang Anfeng was calmer than his wife, but he was so shocked by the faces in the box that he had no time to react. He subconsciously took out his cell phone when he heard the sound. While waiting to be unlocked, my hand is empty. You. One of Shen Wei who took away the phone said, "Shut up. I really don't understand the situation. The matter has not been resolved yet. How can I let the culprit leave? Only learn from the master of the house and give him 2 words of mantra." Being stared at by the emotionless eyes in front of him, Zhang Anfeng subconsciously closed his mouth. Zhang Lingzhou came in behind his parents. "Why did he go home today? Why do you have to go back and change clothes?" Lin Yi wanted to speak again, but this time the old man stared back. The old man had so much authority that she subconsciously did not dare to open her mouth. In addition, she finally noticed that the atmosphere in the box was so solemn that it almost made her boil. In the end, she only dared to take out a silk scarf from her bag and wrap it around her daughter's hand first. In the silence, Zhang Nashuan said in a deep voice, "What are Miss Jiang's plans?" The family of 3 who just came in subconsciously pricked up their ears when they heard the sound. "I always feel that what I hear next will be very important. Simple. To conspire with outsiders to harm one's blood relatives is to be unfilial, unkind, and a shame to the family." The light voice fell heavily on the hearts of everyone present. The most basic thing is to expel the family and take back all inheritance rights. As compensation, let her use all the assets she currently owns as compensation, so that she can remember it for the rest of her life. It is better not to have bad intentions. Since you care so much about your inheritance rights and the property you are afraid of being robbed, then just take it all out. It's gone, so don't worry about it. Everyone. Simple, is this still called simple? They don't even know the word simple anymore. Moreover, for Zhang Lingxian, this punishment is to give away the thing he cares about most in his life. This is comparable to murder and heart-wrenching. No, do not want. Zhang Lingzi just pretended not to hear the unwilling growl. "What do you think of my suggestion, old man?" Zhang Nashuan looked at his granddaughter who couldn't even take care of the wounds on her hands and her eyes turned blood red. He then looked at Shen Yunqing, who was standing guard here instead of Zhang Lingzi, and at the young men behind him who were uniformly dressed and showed strong momentum. I have not forgotten what those people called Shen Yunqing. Head of the household. Who is worthy of being called the head of the household? As far as he knows, only those big families that have been passed down for at least 1,000 years and are still standing strong and prosperous despite the changes of the ages still retain this ancient honorific title. Add the surname Shen. It turns out, it's Shen. Thousands of years ago, there was an amazingly talented Prime Minister Shen, and then he almost died out. Finally, in the hands of an abandoned son of the Shen family who was adopted by Prime Minister Shen, the Shen family flourished again and even went further. Now there is another Shen Yunqing. Even though he is prestigious enough, if it is the Shen family, he will not have any scruples in taking action. The only breakthrough was actually Zhang Lingzi. Isn't this an infinite loop? Miss Zhang. Zhang Lingzi still didn't wait for him to say the next words, this matter is not discussed. Had she not been thousands of miles away now, Shen Yunqing would never have had the chance to take action. If she takes action, Zhang Lingxuan's fate will only be worse than now, otherwise she will not be able to eliminate the anger that has accumulated in her heart until now. At this moment, Zhang Anfeng and Lin Yike, who were the last to arrive, finally understood the whole story. Lin Yi was immediately made to cry, but she was also angry that her daughter did not tell her that she had made a move. Now there was such a big mistake, and everyone who should be alarmed and should not be alarmed was now alarmed. Even she didn't know what to do now. It's over. Zhang Anfeng looked at Chen Rui vaguely. He remembered that his daughter did mention to her not long ago that she planned to cooperate with Chen Rui. But I never expected that it would be such a cooperative method. The key is that it's okay if you get it done as soon as it's done, but now that it's going like this, he'll probably suffer as well. Zhang Lingzhou, on the other hand, looked at his daring sister and called him a good guy in his heart. Is this really his ambitious and skillful sister? What kind of nonsense did you do this time? Even as his biological brother, he doesn't dare to plead for mercy now. It's too late to hide. Okay, Zhang Nashuan smiled bitterly, closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, tears flashed across his eyes, and he spoke with determination, just do what Miss Zhang said. Lin Yi cried and said, old man, how can you listen to an outsider? Shut up, you've taught me a good girl. Zhang Nashuan glared at his daughter-in-law, then looked at his son, do you have any objections? Zhang Anfeng shrank his shoulders at the sight, no, I listen to Dad, and I also listen to Miss Zhang. At worst, the old man will have to wait 100 years before he recognizes the person. The property can also be divided, and I will definitely be able to have food and clothing, but it will definitely not be as good as my son. The old man should have been wronged in the past few years when he was here. Besides, he still has a son-in-law, so his life will not be too bad after all. Shen Yunqing could see Xiaojiju in Zhang Anfeng's heart at a glance, and there was an extra layer of sarcasm in his eyes. Sure enough, the next second he heard His Majesty say on the phone, please add the word permanent when expelling unfilial sons from the house. If any descendants violate the rules, they will automatically lose all inheritance rights. Zhang Nashuan was immersed in depression and didn't think much after hearing the words. He just nodded and responded. Zhang Anfeng's expression changed, and he even looked around. He suspected that Zhang Lingzi on the phone was monitoring the box. Otherwise, how could you even know what he was thinking? Zhang Lingxian finally couldn't bear it any longer, perhaps due to excessive blood loss, so he rolled his eyes and fainted. Lin Yi exclaimed and hurriedly took out her mobile phone from her bag to make an emergency call. This time no one stopped her. After the matter was dealt with, the dust settled. With so many people present and witnessing, Zhang Nashuan would not go back on his promise as long as he wanted to lose face and win back Anan, his granddaughter. Zhang Lingzi didn't want Zhang Lingxian to die like this. After all, Shen Yunqing was the one injured, and sometimes living was much more difficult than dying. The director seems to be calling for filming. Yunqing, you can handle the rest. Okay, Shen Yunqing responded warmly, don't worry about filming, leave the rest to me. Everyone. You're actually still filming. After the emergency call was made, the ambulance rushed over shortly after. Zhang Lingxian was put on a stretcher and sent to the ambulance, accompanied by Lin Yi. Zhang Anfeng looked at his father, who seemed to have aged a few years. He walked over and opened his mouth to say something, but was waved away. I don't want to see you now, and neither do you, get out of here. Zhang Lingzhou has slipped away quietly. He needs to calm down and let his little heart digest today's events. Zhang Nashuan ignored him and turned to look at his granddaughter. Su Ling'an said before he spoke, I want to go to Grandma's house tonight. You should go back and rest early. Zhang Nashuan reached out and wanted to touch his granddaughter's hair as before. But after seeing the child taking half a step back, he resisted the bitterness in his heart and retracted his hand. Okay, Grandpa, please be safe. But everyone knew that he couldn't close his eyes today. As for the two Chen brothers who were already invisible, he didn't even look at them because they thought they were dirty. Zhang Nashuan left with his whole body desolate, while Shen Yunqing took Su Ling'an with him and evacuated. After a while, Chen Rui and Chen Ju were the only ones left in the huge box. Only then did Chen Ju dare to get out from behind the screen, which had no shielding effect, with the aftermath written all over his face. Fortunately, I haven't had time to do anything to that yellow-haired girl Su Ling'an. Brother, did we escape the disaster? Chen Rui. He was speechless for a moment, and couldn't help but said angrily, are all your thoughts filled with grass? You're a brainless thing. Even if Mr. Zhang came over and kicked them a few times, even if Mr. Shen stabbed their hands, it would be better than leaving without even looking at them. Zhang Lingxian has already paid such a heavy price for what happened today. How could Mr. Zhang and the man named Shen let him go so easily? Even if you have escaped a disaster, it's almost time to settle the accounts in the future. End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 422. Hello, Director Qian. Director Qian, it's time to get off work. Director Qian, tomorrow the cardiac surgery department is going to organize a symposium in the first hospital. Will you lead the team? Is it still too late for me to sign up now? It's too late. Qian Yishan walked towards his office while responding to the colleagues who greeted him. He walked to the office door and was about to open it when his cell phone in his white coat pocket suddenly rang. He took it out and saw the caller ID, and immediately raised his eyebrows. It's actually my mother-in-law. His mother-in-law would not take the initiative to call him. When Ling Xian wanted to marry him, she was the one who objected the most. Even after the marriage, he was lukewarm towards his son-in-law. He also knew in his heart that this was because his mother-in-law looked down upon his family background. Although he was considered successful in his career in the eyes of outsiders and became the director of the cardiac surgery department of a large hospital when he was only in his 30s, compared to Zhang Nashuan, a great contemporary calligrapher and painter, my favorite granddaughter, his status is a bit insufficient. According to his mother-in-law's opinion, Ling Xian is qualified to be a high-ranking political official and the heir of a wealthy family. Marrying him is a real waste of money. He couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw this caller. Pushing the door open, he answered the call. Hello, Mom. Something happened to Xian. Where are you, the husband? Qian Yishan was about to enter the door but suddenly stopped. What happened? Where is Ling Xian? It's the hospital where you work. It's the emergency room. You're still in the hospital. Come here quickly. Soon, the staff in the hospital who had not yet got off work saw their director Qian, who had always been calm in their impression, walking so fast in the corridor that he almost broke into a trot. What circumstances could make Director Qian so anxious? Is the patient who just had the operation in trouble again? But this direction is the emergency room. Are there critically injured people in the emergency room? We didn't hear the announcement. I just came out of the emergency room. At this moment, there was a woman whose palm was pierced by a Western knife. She lost too much blood and fell into a coma. That woman's mother was incredible. She said that if you can't cure it, she will wait in line to throw her away. Work really opened my eyes. I thought it was a feudal society. Maybe I feel like I can do whatever I want when I have money. Is that knife careless or? The force that directly pierced the palm was a bit forced to say it was accidental. It's not like throwing a dart, the position is right. Tisk, tisk, it seems that the wealthy family has a lot of disputes and grievances. The topic went astray without realizing it. Qian Yishan arrived at the door of the emergency room and saw Lin Yi waiting in front. She didn't have the delicate makeup and well-kept hairstyle she usually wore when meeting, and there were still a few blood stains on her clothes. She felt a little nervous. "Mom, how is Lingxian? Why are you here? Come on, go in and take a look." Lingxian said, "You have good medical skills. I don't trust other doctors." "Qian Yishan, let's go back and apologize to the colleagues in front of us." The doctors and nurses who were busy in the emergency room did not expect that the injured person turned out to be the wife of Director Qian of their hospital. Before Qian Yishan could speak, he quickly explained the diagnosis results that had just come out. The injured person's palm was stabbed with a knife. The wound was punctured and a penetrating wound was formed. Fortunately, the incision was not large, but the patient was not sent to the hospital in time, resulting in excessive blood loss and excessive emotional fluctuations. The patient was already unconscious when he was sent to the hospital for surgery. "Take off the knife." As Qian Yishan listened, he also saw the injuries on his wife's palms. Although he is not a surgeon, cardiac surgery also has a foreign name. He has also performed some surgeries where the heart was punctured by sharp instruments and caused vascular trauma. It can be seen at a glance that the knife was pierced directly. Lingxian has always been afraid of pain, and there is no way he could have caused such a serious injury by accident. Then there is only one possibility left. This knife was made by someone else. Without any time to think, he nodded directly, "Please, Dr. Tang." Seeing her daughter being pushed into the operating room, but her son-in-law didn't follow her, Lin Yi couldn't help but reached out and patted his arm. "Why don't you go in with her?" "Mom," Qian Yishan patiently reassured her, "Dr. Tang is an excellent doctor in our emergency department, and he will definitely be able to do the surgery well. Now I want to know how Lingxian was injured." Dr. Tang she also said that she had great mood swings before she fell into coma. "What happened before?" Lin Yi's expression froze. She just called her son-in-law over and didn't even think about explaining anything to him. What else could happen? "I accidentally fainted from fear." Qian Yishan was silent for a moment. "Mom, Lingxian is afraid of pain. If you were really careless and quickly retracted when you noticed the pain, how could anyone press their palm hard against the tip of the knife?" Lin Yi was inexplicably frightened when she faced her son-in-law, whose aura suddenly dropped. "When I saw my husband returning from paying the fees, I felt like I saw a life-saving straw. Anfeng, come quickly." Zhang Anfeng's stern face finally managed to put on a smile when he saw his son-in-law was there. "Yishan is here. Dad, I was just getting ready to get off work when I received a call from Mom and came over. Even my father-in-law is here." Coupled with the fact that these two people could not hide their panic expressions even if they tried their best to hide it, Qian Yishan felt that the premonition in his heart was getting more and more ominous. The red light in the operating room turns green. The operation was successful. The knife has been removed. The local anesthesia was performed. You should wake up soon after being immersed in water. Remember to eat more blood-rich foods during this period. Oh, I almost forgot, Director Qian is here. There's no need for me to tell you." Qian Yishan patted Dr. Tang's shoulder and thanked him. When the nurse on the side came out with a blood-stained knife, he stopped him and said, "Give me this knife." There was still blood on the table knife. Qian Yishan wrapped it in a tissue and put it in his pocket. He reached out and held his wife's cold fingertips. He had seen this man so flamboyant and proud before, lying so fragile on the hospital bed. The last time he had seen him was when he gave birth to their daughter. Lin Yi was relieved to hear that the operation went well. Although she was not injured today, the impact on her heart was considerable. The energy that Hui was holding dropped, and his feet immediately became weak and he collapsed to the ground. Zhang Anfeng didn't react until he saw her sitting on the ground, and quickly reached out to help her. Upon seeing this, Qian Yishan said, "Mom and Dad, Please go back and rest first. I will take care of Ling Xian. Yes, that's okay. Lin Yi didn't insist. She hadn't eaten dinner yet. She was very hungry but had no appetite. Plus, she was afraid that her son-in-law would be reluctant and continue to ask questions. She really couldn't hold it anymore. Zhang Anfeng is also in a mess, he has more on his mind. This matter is not over yet. The old man has to give an explanation, and the company is waiting for him to handle it. The couple gave a few instructions and left each other. Qian Yishan helped push the hospital bed into the ward. After the nurse left, he sat quietly by the bedside for a while and called his sister again. I'm going to ask you to take care of me for 2 more days. What's going on, second brother? Your sister-in-law is injured and hospitalized. I have to stay and take care of her. How did you get hurt? It's not clear yet. Qian Yihan, then I will take my daughter to see my sister-in-law tomorrow. She was still talking about looking for her mother today. Yaya and I finally coaxed her away. Well, come on, call me at the hospital and I'll pick you up. Hang up the phone. Qian Yishan took out the knife from his pocket, walked to the bathroom attached to the ward, and cleaned the blood on it. The table knife is sharp and made of the best material at first glance. He touched the mark engraved on it. The 2 characters Shang-Chi in ancient seal script. He went to this place once as a male companion, accompanying Ling Xian. It was a very high-end club. So, Ling Xian was injured while eating? Just as he was about to take out his mobile phone to check the contact information of this club so as to ask what happened in the club tonight, he heard noise coming from outside. He put the washed knife into his pocket and quickly got out. Ling Xian. Zhang Ling Xian, who had just woken up, couldn't hear her husband's voice clearly, and even her vision was still a little blurry, but that didn't stop her from gritting her teeth and swearing, Zhang Lingzi, you and I are irreconcilable. Qian Yishan's footsteps suddenly stopped. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 423. Chapter 423. Something really happened. What does your injury have to do with Zhang Lingzi? Zhang Lingxian quickly turned his head and looked over, meeting her husband's probing gaze. You heard wrong. Qian Yishan was sure that he heard correctly, and that his wife did not say this while unconscious, but looking at her face that was still pale at the moment, no matter how many questions she still had them stuck in her throat. Since you don't want to say it, then don't say it for now and just take good care of yourself first. Where are your parents? Since she has arrived at the hospital, her parents should have sent her here, but where is she now? My parents are going back to rest first. I will stay overnight tonight. My daughter is at my sister's place. She will bring her to the hospital to see you tomorrow. Where's Grandpa? Has Grandpa come? I didn't see Grandpa. Qian Yishan frowned. Grandpa is here tonight. Even Grandpa is here. Who dares to use the knife on his wife? Zhang Lingxian tilted his head. His refusal to answer was obvious. Hands that trembled uncontrollably showed her panic at the moment. She fainted, and Grandpa didn't even look at her. Are you too disappointed in her, or are you really planning to give up on her? No, her grandpa has loved her since she was a child. Besides, nothing really happened to Su Linggan. As long as she behaves well in the future, her grandpa will definitely forgive her. Lingxian. Qian Yishan frowned more tightly. You have just woken up now, so you shouldn't be too excited. If you have anything you can tell me, I am your husband. Is there anything you can't tell me? No, it's okay. Zhang Lingxian first shook his head in denial, then suddenly sat up and hugged him. Yishan, I only have you now. Wow, oh, oh, they all abandoned me, they don't want me at all. Qian Yishan hugged his emotional wife back, comforting her softly while feeling extremely confident in her heart. Something big must have happened tonight that he didn't know about. And it's also related to Zhang Lingzi. Asterisk. The extended commercial vehicle stopped at the alley. Su Lingyan got out of the car and saw that his brother-in-law was coming down with him. He said quickly, "There is only a short distance left. I will be there in 2 minutes by jogging. You don't need to see me off." Shen Yunqing thought it would be difficult to explain when she saw Gao's grandmother later, so she nodded, "Don't think too much when you go home, have a good rest and wait for school to start." Su Lingyan raised a smile and nodded heavily, "I know, brother-in-law, my sister also told me. Everyone has to pay for what they do. Don't let irrelevant people affect your mood." Shen Yunqing took another box and handed it over, "Here, my and your sister's numbers are already stored in it. Just remember these words and go back." Su Lingyan hesitated but took it, "Thank you, brother-in-law." He bowed slightly and left. As she walked to the door of her home, she looked back and saw the car light slowly leaving. Enan. Su Lingyan raised his head and looked at the balcony on the second floor. "Grandma. Come in, why are you back so late at night, have you had dinner?" "Not yet. Grandpa has something to deal with. He can't take care of me for the time being, so I will come back. Then wait for Grandma to come downstairs and make some noodles for you." The hot noodles were brought to the table, and a pair of chopsticks were stuffed into his hands. The smell of sesame oil rushed towards him with enthusiasm, and Su Lingyan blinked hard. He quickly put a chopstick into his mouth and said, "It smells so good and delicious. It looks like he's starving." "It's okay. Grandma cooked a lot this time and there wasn't enough left in the pot." "Enan, what happened to your grandpa? Is it serious? This is so good, but suddenly I want to come back to live. Is it possible that the old man is ill? If you were hospitalized, given an An's character, you would have to go to the hospital instead of back here." "Yes, there is something going on at my grandpa's eldest son's house, and grandpa has to deal with it." When he heard that it was his granddaughter's uncle who was not very close to him, Gao Lan didn't have the time to find out what happened. "Since your grandpa is busy, Enan can stay at home with me. When you start reporting for school later, your grandpa will still know time, there's still grandma." If Su Lingyan and Gao Ian's room is full of warmth, then Zhang Nashuan's room in the other place is full of desolation. Zhang Ye watched helplessly as the old man entered the room where Mrs. Nalan's ranking was. After locking the door, there was no movement. He did not dare to leave just like that, so he could only guard at the door. If something happens to the old man inside, he can detect it as soon as possible. The room is filled with sandalwood. Zhang Nashuan lit incense on his wife's memorial tablet and sat tremblingly on the futon beside him, motionless. I feel so uncomfortable right now. You and I watched this child Xian grow up when he was a child. How come this child has become like this now? Do you know what she did today? She actually, no, it's better not to say anything, lest you hear it down below and get angry. This child is seeking death and there is really nothing I can do to stop her. I am really so disappointed in her this time. I originally wanted to leave all your dowry to her in the future. After all, Feng will definitely let Xiaozhou inherit the company. Later, when I got Anan, I thought I couldn't favor one against the other. They are both girls, so one person half. The hearts of the people are so weak that they swallow elephants like snakes. Do you have any objections to me giving all the dowry you left to our granddaughter? You have also seen that child, she is a well-behaved and sensible person. She also suffered a lot of grievances this time. I still don't know how to face that child. All I can do is make up for her as much as possible." The door was quietly blown open by the wind. Zhang Ye carefully stretched out his hand and was about to help close it when he heard intermittent sounds coming from inside. After listening to this, I couldn't help but sigh. Even he had to say that Zhang Lingxian was too confused in handling this matter. He also knows a thing or two about Chen Ruin's style. What good will come of seeking skin from a tiger? If he heard the old man's original plan, based on his understanding of Zhang Lingxian, this man would probably go crazy. Originally, the old lady could get half of her dowry, but now there is not even a thread left. No, according to what Miss Zhang meant, apart from Zhang Lingxian still having the surname Zhang, he would have nothing to do with the Zhang family in the future. The one who did this can only be said to be domineering. Asterisk. A sneeze. Zhang Lingzi pinched her itchy nose. She suspected that Zhang Lingxian was cursing her. However, Lu Zhengzheng was so nervous that she took out a coat from her bag and put it on her body, then handed her a cup of freshly made hot water. Sister Zixi, please drink some hot water to warm yourself up. This place is so hot in the Gobi Desert, the weather is really bad, it just rained, and the temperature dropped by at least 10 degrees. The key is that there is another scene next. She saw on the notice that Sister Zixi would have to fight with someone in the mud. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but want to scold the director who designed this plot. It's such a cold day and you have to roll in the mud. Why don't you try it yourself if you dare to design it? The key is that Sister Zixi and the other protagonist really agreed. The moon was particularly bright after the rain, and a large night light was added to the set, which illuminated a half-mile radius as bright as day. Zhang Lingzi drank half a cup of hot water, stood up, took off the jacket that Lu Zhengzheng put on her, took the props and weapons handed to her, shook them to regain some touch, and walked onto the court. Kong Guyan took a scimitar this time, and wrapped his smooth figure in a strong suit. He stepped in the mud and water and walked to Zhang Lingzi, his steps paused. Isn't the murderous intent of the person opposite you a little too obvious tonight? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 424. Facts soon proved that this was not his imagination. In the previous fight scenes between the two of them, Zhang Lingzi was very ruthless, so this time, it can be described as brutal. After being slapped hard into the mud again, Kong Guyan couldn't help but lick his back molars. He thought that Zhang Lingzi's strength was already there before, but unexpectedly, this person gave him another surprise. This kind of reaction speed and shooting speed must have been practiced many times in actual combat. As a female star in the entertainment industry, this is probably the job that Zhang Lingzi is least capable of. In other words, it's just a cover. As for Zhang Lingzi's strength, trump card, and other identities, I am afraid that we will need to reinvestigate and evaluate it next. Zhang Lingzi didn't expect that she would beat someone this time so much that she began to doubt her previous judgment. She agreed to film the scene that Wei Xiao had added at once, not just because the scene was really interesting. She also wanted to take this opportunity to film a fighting scene with Changyin to vent her anger about not being able to be there in person for her children. The regret of venting anger. To sum up, the sandbag performance was very qualified and she had a great time playing it. If it were anyone else, she probably wouldn't be able to do this. Changyin, who was treated as a sandbag. This scene was filmed until almost early in the morning. It's hard to tell whether it's mud or sweat on the two of them. In short, they look like two clay figures at first glance. Even Wei Xiao, who designed this plot, did not expect that these two people would be so willing to fight, and they almost lost their image in the fight. As for the effect, let him snicker. Not bad, not bad. He praised the performance well because he was afraid of being proud. Thank you for your hard work. Go back and take a good bath and rest. Whether you want to turn on the phone tomorrow morning depends on the situation. Zhang Lingzi and Changyin scenes will be moved to the afternoon, regardless of tomorrow. If you can't turn it on in the morning, you both can have a rest all morning. Zhang Lingzi handed Lu Zhengzheng a face towel and wiped it black, then nodded in the direction of Wei Xiao. Thank you, director. It's really nice to vent, but it's also really tiring. It would be good to have an extra morning of rest. Changyan threw the prop knife in his hand to the staff who came to collect the knife, and led Luan Hua away with a cold face. Luan Hua walked behind him, watching his muddy footsteps step by step. The muddy water on his body was still dripping down, and he didn't dare to breathe. If she remembers correctly, it is not a serious matter for adults to have mysophobia. I'm afraid I'm just gritting my teeth and enduring it now. So she didn't understand why she agreed to film such a scene since she was misophobic. But now she doesn't dare to ask. Cherish your life. Asterisk. Inside the RV bathroom. With the help of Lu Zhengzheng, Zhang Lingzi took off her muddy costume, and then tore off the plastic wrap wrapped around her forearms and legs, the parts most likely to get muddy, and then breathed a long sigh of relief. Okay Zhengzheng, you can go out. Well, Sister Zixi, you can just wash it? Changning and I haven't sweated much today, so we don't plan to take a shower. Just wash your face later. You can use the water from the water heater as you like. Although some measures were taken in advance, water is pervasive and still flows in through the clothes more or less. Use more water and it will be cleaner. So when Shen Yunqing called, Zhang Lingzi was still taking a shower. Chang Ning picked up the phone and looked at the bathroom. He hesitated for a moment and clicked the call. Sir, it's me, Chang Ning. Madam is still taking a shower. Do you have anything you want me to convey? That's it, let's talk about it tomorrow. Zhang Lingzi turned off the shower and was applying shower gel on her body. When she heard the sound coming from outside, she opened her hand and stretched out her hand. Give me the phone. Shen Yunqing was about to hang up. Chang Ning put the phone on his outstretched palm, watched the bathroom door close again, and stuck out his tongue. Fortunately, I didn't hang up immediately. Placing the phone out of reach of the shower head, Zhang Lingzi continued to apply shower gel. I have the phone here, let's talk. Did you take the photo very late today? Well, not long after we finished shooting, we got all muddy and watery. Thank you for your hard work, Your Majesty. You are the same today. You sent An back. Is she in good condition? Not bad, that girl is stronger than you think. She really looks like Jin and I always feel that she is the reincarnation of Jinan. Shen Yunqing did not say anything, knowing that His Majesty did not need his echo at this moment. But even if they are reincarnated and have no memory, they are two completely different people, but it doesn't stop me from wanting to be their sister. Speaking of this, Zhang Lingzi chuckled. If I were here tonight, Zhang Lingxian would not just be stabbed through the palm of his hand with a table knife. She will return exactly what Zhang Lingxian wanted to do to Su Ling'an. Brothers Chen Rui and Chen Ju, Yunqing, what are you going to do? I was about to say. Zhang Lingzi turned on the shower. Let's talk about it. Listening to the sound of water coming from the phone, Shen Yunqing couldn't help but pursed her lips, picked up the teacup at hand and drank half of the cup before speaking. I found out that Chen Rui wants to get involved in the art industry. I originally planned to use this incident to ask Zhang Nashuan to speak to Chen Ju, and I also used this opportunity to reach cooperation with Zhang Anfeng's company. Hearing this, Zhang Lingzi just wanted to sneer. It's a good idea. I also want to get involved in artworks, and I'm not afraid of getting those artworks dirty with my dirty hands. Shen Yunqing continued. I took this opportunity to check Zhang Anfeng's art company and found that he recruited many small shareholders in his company to raise the value of the art as a gimmick and use the money from both parties to make huge profits for himself. Also there is. He paused. Zhang Lingzi thought for a while. Isn't it possible that we also found out that there is a small shareholder named Zhang Runchinj? I also knew a little bit about this when I went home before. He wanted to make a fortune from this investment, but he didn't know that he was being treated as a leak. Then do you want me to? No need, Zhang Lingzi refused without thinking. I admit that his heart is good, but he stood too high before and has not learned to be down to earth yet. It would be good for him to stumble again this time. As a 50-year-old person, it's time to take a good look at the path ahead and stop looking at the sky rather than the road. Okay, then I'll listen to you. I'm going to mess with Zhang Anfeng's business, which will inevitably affect the small shareholders. I will try my best to preserve their capital, and there will be no more. Zhang Lingzi, soft-hearted. But this is not the first time for this person. We also want Zhang Nashuan to know what good things his son is doing behind his back. I hope he can be like tonight and not be an old fool this time. I will look for the right time. In addition, Chen Rui, judging from the clues currently investigated, there is still more to dig. Then keep digging, don't move on the surface, hang a knife, don't drop it in a hurry. I think so too. Zhang Lingzi chuckled, turned off the shower and wrapped herself in a bath towel. I've washed myself and got ready to go to bed. You should also go to bed early and don't stay up too late. Okay, remember to blow dry your hair. End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 425. Lu Zhengzheng came out of the bathroom after washing her face and feet, and saw Sister Zixi, who was already lying on the bed, suddenly sitting up from the bed, which startled her. What's wrong, Sister Zixi? Zhang Lingzi touched her still damp hair, feeling a little guilty for some reason. Zhengzheng, where is the hair dryer you brought? Give it to me to blow dry my hair. Oh. Lu Zhengzheng hurriedly took out the hair dryer and handed it over. Do you want my help? Need not. Zhang Lingzi took the hair dryer and plugged it into the socket, adjusting it to the breeze mode. The volume was still acceptable when it was blown back and forth in her ears. How is the search for qualified designers you asked for? I made a form. Lu Zhengzheng went back and brought back the tablet. Just as Changning came back with her oil bottle to wash up, Zhang Lingzi asked them to sit down and listen. I sorted them from the most famous to the least famous, and took advantage of the internet access in the afternoon to search and filter out 3 qualified candidates. The first, Yun Chan, 46 years old, is the first domestic woman to break into the international fashion industry single-handedly. The independent brand Yun she founded has won many gold medals in international competitions. Some people once commented that the designer is still trying to reach the threshold of the international fashion industry, but she is already the one standing in the clouds. However, Lu Zhengzheng said with a change of tone and glanced at the 3 people who were listening attentively, Ms. Yun is unmarried, and I have never heard that he has a son who is already in his 20s. Moreover, she also publicly stated in an interview that she is not married. Changning shook his head. Then this probably isn't the case. Zhang Lingzi touched her hair and turned off the hair dryer. Let's talk about the second one. The second one, Chang Yuan, is 45 years old and divorced. She married into a wealthy family before and started her career after the divorce. She has a son who has returned to her husband's family. Changning exclaimed, this is somewhat consistent. He has a son and a good family background. Otherwise, this guy would not have ventured to the Gobi Desert at such a young age. My mother is not around, so after I lost my memory, I always wanted to find my mother in my dreams. As he spoke, he patted Tu Yuping's shoulder and said, boy, do you remember the name Chang Yuan? No. None of these, then there is only the last one left. If not, then this form will be in vain. Lu Zhengzheng was about to read the third person's information when Zhang Lingzi raised her hand and interrupted. She looked closely at the painful and troubled face of the man squatting on the ground with his knees in his arms. It's nothing. What do you think is wrong with what you just heard? Changning was stunned for a moment, then regained his composure and held his breath. It's not Chan, it's Yunfan, the fan of the fan. This time it was Lu Zhengzheng who was stunned. I can't remember this name wrong, it's so famous. Changning, could it be that there are just two people? No, Zhang Lingzi stretched out her hand and scratched the sheet beneath her. The word Zen has two pronunciations, Chan and Shan, and the latter has the same pronunciation as Fan. Lu Zhengzheng slapped her thigh. Yes, Sister Zixi is right. Maybe she used a stage name. After all, she is also a celebrity in the fashion industry, so it is normal to have a stage name with a homophonic word. But didn't you find out that she is not married and has no children? Maybe it's not necessarily a result of a hidden marriage, and the information may not be absolutely accurate. It's like this in the entertainment industry, and it's often hard to tell the real from the fake. Her husband and children are probably ordinary people. This way, knowledge can be gained, just protect them. Zhang Lingzi reminded from the side, if you continue to discuss, someone is going to hit the leg of the coffee table. Chang Ning turned his head and looked at it. He was startled and quickly pulled the person back. Why are you suddenly going to harm yourself? Head, my head is going to explode. Chang Ning had no choice but to hold his head again. Headache? Why does it suddenly hurt? Zhang Lingzi looked at his appearance thoughtfully. I guess he was stimulated. It seems that we are quite lucky. But if I hadn't been woken up by the sound of rain and happened to hear this kid talking in his sleep, and then patiently interrogated him, I wouldn't have thought of checking in this direction. Luck is also due to preparation in advance. Exciting. Lucky. Lu Zhengzheng was stunned for 2 seconds and then his eyes suddenly lit up. Is it really Yun Chan? I only said that it is possible. Lu Zhengzheng was excited for 2 seconds before he thought of a sad reality, but we don't have this person's contact information. Wei Dao has a lot of connections, let's ask him tomorrow. Zhang Lingzi has nothing to worry about. Now that she has a suspect, she can just find a way to verify it. If you really can't contact them, you can only disclose it to other members of the crew and ask the police to contact them. After Chang Ning calmed the person down, Zhang Lingzi closed the curtain and said, sleep. Although she doesn't have to be busy tomorrow morning and can sleep in late, she has really had enough of staying up late in her last life. She might as well not experience it in this life. Asterisk. You said that the amnesiac young man you rescued might be Yun Chan's son? How can he have a son when he's not married? Wei Xiao felt a little funny, and just about to laugh, he met Zhang Lingzi's eyes, which he raised and looked at. Ahem, can you tell me how you came to this conclusion? Zhang Lingzi took a sip of tea and briefly summarized her reasoning. Wei Xiao's face turned serious. Although I still think it's a bit ridiculous, after hearing what you said, it makes sense. However, I don't have Yun Chan's contact information, but you should have her sister's contact information. Sister, Yun, Zhang Lingzi suddenly thought of someone when he prompted her. Is Yun Chan's sister Yun Ping? Yun Ping happened to be the chief styling director of Empress Yuan Zhao, and they did add each other's contact information at that time. Yun Fan Yun Ping just corresponds to it. That's right, Wei Xiao gave her an idea. You can ask her on the sidelines first, so as not to go directly to that Yun Chan and accidentally make a big mistake. After all, regardless of whether Yun Chan really has a son or not, since he doesn't want the public to know, it means he doesn't want the public to pay attention to his family. You can't just say that I saved someone. I guess it should be your son. Thank you, Director of Defense, for the reminder. Wei Xiao waved his hand indifferently. Let me know when you get the result. He also wanted to gossip about this matter. It felt quite bizarre. Zhang Lingzi is not one to procrastinate. After returning to the RV, she took out her satellite phone, found the number on the cloud screen and clicked to dial it. Although they have added their contact information before, both of them are busy people. After adding their contact information, they went back to their own work. This was the first time they had a call. Fortunately, more than 10 seconds after the call was made, the call was connected. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 426. Zhang Lingzi, Yunping wiped the loose powder on his hands, said sorry to the woman sitting in front of the makeup mirror, and reached out to take the mobile phone handed over by the assistant. It's rare to receive a call from you. Yunping's assistant answered the call at first. Knowing that Yunping would be busy at the moment, Zhang Lingzi didn't want to talk nonsense. There is something serious. I don't think you would come to me at this time if you are fine. If she remembered correctly, Empress Yuan Zhao has not been finished filming yet. And Zhang Lingzi is different from others. Others get her personal contact information, and even if they know that she doesn't like to socialize, they still remember to send a message of blessing during festivals. As for this girl, she had never seen those messages before. At this moment, she suddenly called, and she put aside the VIP who had just finished her makeup and chose to answer the call in person. It was to make sure that Zhang Lingzi would never make this call for no reason. Yun Chan is Sister Ping's sister. Yun Ping was stunned for a moment, and then thought of something. He frowned and did not deny it. Yes, Yun Chan is my biological sister. But we sisters have never talked about this relationship publicly, and we don't look alike. You are why? Wait, Wei Xiao told you. Well, I couldn't contact Yun Chan. I just went to Director Wei and he told me. Tell me, what's the matter? Does Sister Ping have a nephew? Yunping, who expected to hear Zhang Lingzi trying to establish a line with her sister through her nephew. Well, or let me ask another way, does Yun Chan have a son? After saying this, the other person was silent for a long time. After a while, Zhang Lingzi looked at the phone that had not been hung up, and became more certain about this speculation. If not, just deny it directly. Silence means there is indeed something fishy involved. After a while, Yunping finally spoke. My sister does have a child, but the relationship between the two is not good and they don't have much contact. They haven't seen each other for several years. But how do you know about this? Yes. I will send you a photo later. I suspect the person in the photo is your nephew. Yunping. If it had been anyone else who said this, she would have hung up the phone without saying a word. Given how her sister and her nephew wanted to stay away from each other every time they met, it was a wrong idea to rely on her nephew to get in touch with her sister. But now the person on the other side of the phone is Zhang Lingzi. She hesitated for 2 seconds and finally replied, then please send me the photo. It took a few minutes for a photo to be sent. Just when Yunping's patience was about to run out, he finally succeeded in clicking on the photo that looked like it had been taken temporarily. After seeing the appearance of the person in the photo and the gauze wrapped around his head, Yunping suddenly stood up, startling everyone else in the VIP room. It's okay, you're all busy with your business, she said, turning around and walking out while dialing back the call she just hung up on. Zhang Lingzi saw Yunping's call back, looked at Lu Zhengzheng and Chang Ning who were approaching, and answered the call. Before she could speak, Yunping on the other side said anxiously, Xiao 11, Ning Ning's head. Ning Ning is my nephew, the one in the photo you just sent me, has his head injured. I'm filming here in Liangchuan now. I picked him up in the Gobi Desert. He was injured on the back of his head at the time. He is currently in a state of amnesia, but he is in good condition. We also found Yun Chan through clues and called. Let me ask you for confirmation. Thank you, Zioxi. Yunping breathed a sigh of relief at first. I'll call my sister right now. She should be not far from you now. I'll ask her to rush over as soon as possible. Although mother and son have always been incompatible with each other, that was only under the premise of knowing that each other was living well. Now that her nephew has been so seriously injured and has lost his memory, she doesn't believe that her sister is not in a hurry. Zhang Lingzi didn't ask why Yun Chan was not far from her. Knowing that Yun Ping was in a hurry to make a call, she simply hung up the phone. Ning Ning, Lu Zhengzheng said, looking at Chang Ning, and then at Tuoping, who was squatting on the ground and sitting obediently while posing for photos. This is also called Ning Ning. Wait, this guy always likes to pester. I'm looking at you. Is it because both of your names have the character Ning? Even if you have lost your memory, you still feel familiar. Chang Ning. In the end, is it just because of the name? Zhang Lingzi clapped her hands to attract the attention of the three people in front of her. It is now confirmed that this little boy Ning Ning is the son of Yun Chan. The next step is to wait for the other party to come and pick him up, and then we will have completed our merits. I went over to talk to Director Wei, and he is also paying attention to the follow-up. More than 10 minutes later, Wei Xiao, who learned that the young man Zhang Lingzi picked up was really Yun Chan's biological son. No, I have to slow down. After half a minute of pause, he said, wait a minute, you just said that Yun Chan would come to pick up the person in person. Zhang Lingzi nodded, that's what Yunping said on the phone. She said that Yunchan is not far from here at the moment. It's not far. Wei Xiao rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes. It seems that the gossip I received some time ago is true. What gossip? It doesn't matter if I tell you now anyway, the real owner will be here soon. I heard someone say some time ago that this year's Yunduan Autumn and Winter Show will be held in Liangchuan. When I heard about it, I thought it's a rumor. If Yun Chan is also in Liangchuan, it seems to be true. Zhang Lingzi. It seems that although the relationship between mother and son is not good and incompatible, their preferences are quite consistent. They all like to run into this desert. Asterisk. They knew that Yun Chan would come soon, but neither Zhang Lingzi nor Wei Xiao expected it to be so soon. The sun has just set and everyone is preparing to pack food for dinner. Su Zhao hurried over and said that 2 cars were coming outside. Zhang Lingzi and Wei Xiao, who were holding lunch boxes and chopsticks and preparing to eat, looked at each other. Okay, stop eating now and go pick up people. When I came out, I saw 2 cars parked outside. One was a dune off-road vehicle and the other seemed to be a medical vehicle. Standing next to the sand cross-country was a powerful woman wearing a long windbreaker and sunglasses. A man in a suit and a woman wearing gold-rimmed glasses stood behind her. Zhang Lingzi has only seen the photo of Yun Chan that Lu Zhengzheng showed her. Although she can't see the whole face now, it does not prevent her from being sure that the woman in the long windbreaker is Yun Chan. When people on both sides saw each other, they walked forward. Hello, I am Yun Chan. Hello, Zhang Lingzi. The 2 hands held each other lightly and separated. After briefly introducing himself, Yun Chan couldn't wait to ask, Miss Zhang, where are Xiaoi and the others? Xiaoi? Why is there another name coming out? My son, Yun Yi, is nicknamed Ning Ning. He was too noisy when he was a child, so I gave him this name. I should be having dinner with my assistant now. Ms. Yun, come with me. Zhang Lingzi turned around to lead the way, and Yun Chan quickly raised his heels. Wei Xiao, who was rarely ignored from beginning to end, looked at the backs of the 2 people who had walked away quickly, so he had no choice but to nod towards the remaining 2 people and quickly chased after them. I heard from Ping Ping that the kid is still injured. Well, when I found him, he had a big bulge on the back of his head. He couldn't remember anything, and he didn't have anything to prove his identity. Later, he had surgery and heard him calling his mother in a dream, so we asked him how his mother was. He might be a fashion designer. When selecting candidates, he corrected his mother's name as Yun Fan, and then we thought about Ms. Yun's name. Fortunately, we guessed it right this time. Yun Chan's habitually tense mouth couldn't help but tremble. Yunchan was my previous name, but now everyone calls me Yunchan, Ting except for him and Ping Ping. No one calls me that anymore. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 427. Chapter 427 The Interesting Mother and Son. Opening the tent curtain, Yun Chan immediately saw Yun Yi sitting facing this way. Having seen the photo before, she thought she was mentally prepared, but seeing the child's head wrapped in gauze and his lips not showing much blood, she still felt a dense pain at the tip of her heart. But her relationship with her son was used to being cold and hard, and she couldn't do anything like running up to him and hugging him now. After taking a breath to calm down, she continued to move forward. Yun Yi, who was plucking coriander from his bowl, paused and raised his head as if feeling something. Mother and son looked at each other quietly for a moment. Yun Chan couldn't help but snorted, "What can you do if you take a bite of coriander? This has been your virtue since childhood." Yun Yi didn't even think about it. "I can be poisoned to death." Everyone who watched this exchange of words said. Chang Ning has stood up from his seat. "Please sit down." "Thank you." Yun Chan nodded to her and simply sat down. Yun Yi moved his mouth when he saw this. "Have you had breakfast? You still care about whether I eat or not?" Yun Chan chuckled, but then couldn't help but sniff. Zhang Lingzi just sat down at the table next to him and nodded to Chang Ning when he heard the words. Soon, 3 identical scallion noodles were placed in front of Yun Chan and the 2 people she brought over. For Yun Chan's portion, Chang Ning specifically asked if he wanted to add coriander. Put it out more, it's going to be troublesome." Channing. She poured out the remaining half of the bowl of coriander, and then she saw Yun Yi's face turned green. This mother and son are so interesting. Afraid of being recognized and causing unnecessary commotion, Yun Chan didn't take off his sunglasses and didn't say anything more to his amnesiac son across from him. The mother and son just sat facing each other and finished the bowl of noodles quietly. Yun Chan stood up first. Seeing Yun Yi still sitting there, he frowned and urged, "Let's go." Chang Ning turned around to see Tuoping's reaction, only to see that he stood up obediently. Yun Chan turned around, glanced in his direction, and then followed him obediently. "Ms. Zhang, I'll take him to the medical car for a checkup and come back later." Zhang Lingzi raised her hand and made a please gesture. As soon as Yun Chan left, several people sitting at the nearby dining table breathed a sigh of relief. "Who is here? The aura is so strong. Even wearing sunglasses when eating is too mysterious." Although I knew that the director and teacher Zhang should know the identity of the visitor, the number of people who dared to run over and ask was 0. Zhang Lingzi led Lu Zhengzheng and Chang Ning out of the tent. Chang Ning glanced at the 2 figures who had walked away, finally got rid of this dragster. However, amid the sense of relief, there is also a vague sense of loss. She quickly shook her head to get rid of the emotion. Inside the tent, Luan Hua saw Chong Yin put down his chopsticks and then spoke in a low voice, "Sir, that person just now seems to be Yun." Kong Guyan raised his hand to prevent her from continuing. He hummed and murmured, "It turns out he is her son." "Sir, how about I go find out why her son was injured in the desert?" "No, she will check it herself. We don't need to sell this." "Yes." Inside the medical vehicle, Yun Chan was completely relieved after receiving the test results that the values were relatively stable but a little weak. Looking at the rarely obedient son in front of her, she handed over her mobile phone and said, "There are some videos of you when you were a child. Let's take a look and see if you can think of anything." He asked the nurse who brought him to look after him. Yun Chan took his bodyguards and went to find Zhang Lingzi again. "Firstly, I want to express my sincere thanks, and secondly, I want to know more about how I discovered the boy Yun Yi." Zhang Lingzi asked Chang Ning to hand over a set of clothes that were so dirty that the original color could not be seen. "These are the clothes he was wearing when he found Yun Yi." Yun Chan took it and didn't think it was dirty. He reached out and touched it, he has some little habits and carries some important items close to his body. But when you found him, he had nothing but the clothes on his body. This is not normal. Really? We have speculated on two possibilities. One is that he happened to have nothing with him when the accident occurred. The second possibility is that someone deliberately took away something that could prove his identity. Now it seems that the second guess, the possibility is even greater. I will definitely find out the truth, thinking that someone might have deliberately murdered his son. Yun Chan's aura became more and more chilly. You were the ones who discovered Yun Yi. If you notice any other doubts, please let me know. Tell me the details. She said and handed over a business card with a simple design. This is my personal business card. Unless I am too busy with work, I can receive it at any time. Waiting for Zhang Lingzi to take it, she handed over the second thing. If you have time then, please take the time to come. It's just a small thank you. As soon as Zhang Lingzi took it, she heard Lu Zhengzheng, who was standing next to her, take a breath while looking at the card in her hand. Yunxi Tianlu, here's the VIP invitation for the autumn and winter show. When Yun Chan stood up and left, Lu Zhengzheng couldn't help but reach out and touch the card Zhang Lingzi put on the table. This material, the outer layer seems to be silk, and the words are embroidered on it. This is too exquisite. Chang Ning saw her drooling over an invitation and couldn't help but laugh. As for that, isn't it just an invitation? This is not an ordinary invitation. Thinking that Chang Ning, the temporary assistant, was not from the entertainment industry, Lu Zhengzheng thought for a while and explained to her, Yun Chan's invitation is not easy to get. Let's put it this way, if this time the big show will invite 100 guests from all over the world, so the number of people in our country who are eligible to receive this invitation letter will definitely not exceed 2 digits. But if you think about how many artists and people in the fashion industry there are, this ratio is enough. That's an exaggeration. Chang Ning finally had some ideas and nodded. That's indeed an exaggeration. Zhang Lingzi sent Yun Chan out of the RV and suddenly said something. On the way here a few days ago, we encountered a dispute. There was a captain of the adventure team who disappeared in the desert. The search team found no results and was about to give up. With the adventure team the rest got into a fight. Yun Chan paused and said, "Thank you for letting me know. No matter whether her son's injury has something to do with this adventure team or not, as long as there is a clue, she will find a way to investigate it." Watching Yun Chan leave, Zhang Lingzi returned to the car and saw Lu Zhengzheng and Chang Ning gathered around a table, looking at the invitation letter on it and wanting to touch it but not daring to touch it. She walked over and picked it up, then handed it to Lu Zhengzheng. "Put it away. Let's go when we have time. If you don't have time, remember to tell me in advance so I can call and explain." Lu Zhengzheng hurriedly took it carefully. Chang Ning hesitated for a moment, then asked in a low voice, "Sister Zixi, when did Ms. Yun leave?" "Nothing unexpected, tomorrow morning." End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 428. Early the next morning, Chang Ning saw Yun Yi with 2 dark circles under his eyes. Yun Chan explained at the side, "I have some videos of him when he was a child on my phone. I watched them in the middle of the night after dinner last night." "Did you remember anything?" "No." Mother and son shook their heads together. "But I have already ordered people to investigate the adventure team and search team you mentioned. If the missing one is really Yun Yi, then it should not be far from the truth. Even if not, I will try my best to restore his memory. Although the well-behaved son now looks a little more pleasing to the eye than the brat who couldn't deal with her before, she would rather not have it if it comes at the cost of amnesia. As a mother, you only want your children to be well. Feel free to contact." "Good." Before leaving, Yun Yi suddenly trotted up to Chang Ning and handed over the new mobile phone that had not yet been warmed. Changning was stunned for 2 seconds before realizing that this guy wanted to use his new phone to add her contact information. She hesitated for a moment, then gave it. Yun Chan stood there without moving, looking at the scene thoughtfully. Xiaoi, let's go. She made a special trip to push through a lot of things, and the purpose was to take the brat away. Even if the brat seems a little reluctant to leave, she has to give him a beating. Yun Yi himself also wanted to retrieve his memory. After making sure that he had saved Changning's number, he waved goodbye and followed him into the car obediently. He also wanted to take Changning, whom he had been most familiar with these days, away with him, but he knew it was unrealistic. After the car drove a certain distance, Yun Yi looked back and saw that the crew camp had turned into a small dot. Turning around, he met the slightly teasing gaze of his own mother, who had taken off her sunglasses. "What, you can't bear to part with me, do you like that girl named Changning?" Yun Yi didn't nod or shake his head. He thought for a moment and replied, "She is different from other girls." "What's the difference?" "She is very skilled, very sassy, and a little mysterious." Yun Chan raised his eyebrows high. "Boy, don't you know that being curious about a girl is the beginning of liking her? Forget it, even if you want to pursue someone, you have to wait until you recover your memory. Maybe you had a girlfriend before you lost your memory." Yun Chan just said this casually, but he saw that the detector tied to his wrist suddenly fluctuated violently. When he turned around, he saw this brat covering his head and almost frowning together. "Is your head hurting?" Yeah, Yun Yi gritted his teeth to prevent himself from shouting. He only felt that his mind was in a mess, mixed with the girl's laughter, and then a wave of nausea surged up in his stomach. "It was so hard that I didn't vomit out the breakfast I had just eaten in the car." After a while, the situation eased and the car stopped. The nurse who was accompanying the car came over from the back seat. After a brief examination and questioning, he said, "It must have been some sensitive words that stimulated the brain nerves." Sensitive words, Yun Chan thought thoughtfully, recalling what he had just said. Could it be, girlfriend? Yun Yi, who had just recovered from his nausea, said, "Ugh." Yun Chan. Accompanying doctor. The two couldn't help but look at each other. "Why does it make me sick when I mention my girlfriend?" Yun Yi ended up vomiting up his breakfast. Yun Chan handed over the prepared mineral water and said, "Rinse your mouth before getting in the car." In the car that started to move again, Yun Chan waited for the brat to look better before he tentatively asked, "Did you think about it just now? What are you getting up for?" It was somewhat rewarding after vomiting. Yun Yi nodded. "There is a girl, but I can't see her face clearly." "It's true." Yun Chan hurriedly swallowed back the rest of his words. If he vomited again, he might be vomiting bile. "Boss, phone number." Yun Chan took the satellite phone handed over by the bodyguard in the front seat, glanced at the number and his face suddenly became serious, and answered the call. "Say. Miss, we found out that half a month ago, the young master organized an expedition team to enter the desert at the junction of Liangchuan and Zhejiang. The team was organized online. At present, the members of the expedition team have returned individually. The team is the well-known local Hawkeye search team, and I also got the search team's contact information." Yun Chan sat up unconsciously and said, "Send me the information about the expedition members and the Eagle Eye search team." Half an hour has passed since he finished receiving the information intermittently. Yun Chan first looked at the list of the adventure team. The above information about each person is quite detailed. There are men and women in the team members, they come from several places, and their family backgrounds are also good. After all, adventure is no better than traveling on a budget. Food, clothing, housing, and transportation are simply not complete without sufficient financial support. Entering the desert without complete equipment is no different than courting death. However, there are only two people left in Liangchuan city. Li Yan. She circled the photos of these two people. When she returns to Liangchuan City, she plans to find a way to find out the background of these two people. After thinking about it, she sent another copy of this information to Zhang Lingzi. According to Zhang Lingzi, their crew has seen these people with their own eyes, so there is no guarantee that they will find anything. She was not idle while the information was being transferred, and made another call. "Hello, this is the Hawkeye search team. Excuse me, I heard that you were looking for the missing captain of the adventure team not long ago. What are the characteristics of that person?" After hanging up the phone, Yun Chan's face was already cold. Even the search team didn't know that the brat of hers had been injured. They only knew that he suddenly disappeared at night, and the clothing characteristics described by the other party obviously did not match the clothes Zhang Lingzi gave her. 9 out of 10 people in the adventure team lied and misled the search team's search direction. Otherwise, the brat would probably have been found long ago. You won't be reduced to being injured and running under someone else's car to keep warm at night. She reached out her hand and patted the back of her son's hand after many years. Asterisk. As soon as Zhang Lingzi finished the show, she saw Lu Zhengzheng handing her cell phone over. "You got news?" "Well, Sister Zixi, it's Boss Yun who has sent a file. This broken signal has just been successfully received." Zhang Lingzi sat down and clicked on the file. After seeing the content inside, he raised his eyebrows slightly. It was actually found out so quickly. After scanning everyone's information above, she checked in with the adventure team members she met on the evening she came here. Now that it was confirmed that Yunyi was really the captain of the adventure team, Zhang Lingzi thought for a while and simply changed the satellite phone to call. When the call was connected, she said, "The girl named Lian there may have a close relationship with Yunyi." She remembered that the girl was the most excited at that time. Lian. Yun Chan's eyes narrowed. "So, Miss Yi Zhang, what is the possible relationship between Yunyi and Lian? There were 3 girls in the adventure team at that time, and Lian was the only one who was the most excited about Yunyi's disappearance. They are about the same age. Is it possible that they are a couple?" "But I just said the 3 words girlfriend in the car." The brat almost puked me all over the car after hearing it. Now I wonder if he is allergic to these 3 words. Zhang Lingzi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 429. Hang up the phone, Zhang Lingzi looked at Wei Minmin and Pei Xinyuan who came over to sit down. "Let me ask you a question." "What's the question?" Wei Minmin patted her chest with a confident look on her face. "I promise to answer everything I know." Pei Xinyuan nodded. "Under what circumstances would you subconsciously feel disgusted when you hear the word boyfriend?" Wei Minmin. Pei Xinyuan. The two looked at each other for a moment. Pei Xinyuan opened his mouth hesitantly. After thinking about it, he leaned closer and asked softly, "Sister 11, are you having any conflict with your boyfriend? This state feels a bit serious." Zhang Lingzi reached out and pushed her shoulder, shaking her head in confusion. "Nothing, there will be no conflicts between us. This time we are just discussing matters." "Oh, that's good." Wei Minmin also breathed a sigh of relief, rubbed her chin and thought for a while. "Then if the thought of my boyfriend makes me sick, cheating. Cheating is the most unbearable thing for me. If my future boyfriend cheats on me behind my back, I will be sick to death. I can't wait to pack him up and throw him away as garbage." Zhang Lingzi saw the way she was gritting her teeth as she spoke, and couldn't help but remind her, "You don't have a boyfriend yet." "Yeah, that's right." Wei Minmin's expression relaxed, and she coughed lightly. "Actually, I was thinking about trying to chase Mr. Chong. After all, he looks good and has a good figure. He can look at people every day. Eat an extra bowl of rice. But now, I don't think I can handle such a fastidious young master, so I might as well forget it. Pei Xinyuan. She couldn't hold it back. Sister Minmin, you really dare to think about it? Think about it without breaking the law. Zhang Lingzi had no choice but to knock on the armrest of the chair and said, "It went astray." The two of them paused for a moment, then put their hands on their knees like primary school students. Where is the heart? If I had a boyfriend, it would be like Sister Minmin. Cheating is really disgusting. If I knew about it, I probably wouldn't be able to bear it for a minute. Zhang Lingzi nodded thoughtfully. Okay, the question and answer is over. She may know why Yunyi was injured. If it is true as she guessed, then this child is really unlucky. Asterisk. Qian Yishan held her daughter in her arms and pushed open the door of the ward, and was immediately startled by the scene inside. He turned around and thrust his daughter into the arms of the nanny who was coming with him. He rushed over quickly and reached out to grab the fruit knife in Zhang Lingxuan's hand. What are you crazy about? Yishan, Zhang Lingxian pointed the tip of the fruit knife at his carpal artery. Grandpa doesn't want me anymore. I can't think of any other way. Can you help me see Grandpa and ask him to come over? Qian Yishan stared at the fruit knife in her hand, clenching her fists, ready to step forward and the knife away at any time. You forgot, Anan is starting school today, and your grandpa must be sending Anan to report. Anan, it's Anan again. Zhang Lingxian now had a headache when he heard the name. He shook his head crazily and wanted to drive the name away. It would be better if I didn't have her. As soon as she came, she took everything away from me. Qian Yishan didn't care about the nanny who was following behind. He frowned and said in disapproval, "What are you talking about? What did she rob you of?" Grandpa's love and care, but that is also her grandpa. I don't care, Zhang Lingxian screamed loudly. Are you going or not? Qian Yishan saw that there was a trace of blood under the tip of the fruit knife when she was so excited. He did not dare to provoke her anymore, so he could only nodded. Okay, I'll go. You put the fruit knife down first. Zhang Lingxian loosened his fingers when he saw that his goal was achieved. Qian Yishan quickly took the knife back with quick eyesight and put it into his pocket, feeling full of exhaustion. Turning around and asking the nanny, "Auntie, please take my daughter out to play for a while." Originally, he wanted to bring his daughter to stay with his mother and calm his wife's mood. Now it seems that it is good if the wife does not scare the daughter. Qian Yishan did go out as Zhang Lingxian wished, but he didn't really go to see the old man. Instead, he brought back a doctor and a nurse. The patient has a tendency to self-mutilate, and with the consent of the family, sedatives can be used to stabilize the mood. By the time Zhang Lingxian realized something was wrong, he had already been given an injection. Before he fell into coma, he looked at her husband with a hint of hatred in his eyes. You lied to me. Qian Yishan closed his eyes expressionlessly. He has asked countless times in the past 2 days what happened in that club, but on this matter, his wife's mouth was as tight as a clamshell. He even went to find the owner of the club to ask about the situation, but the other party was vague and did not care about him. He didn't even monitor him that night. With a lot of doubts in his head, he also had to take care of his wife who was having an emotional breakdown, and his daughter couldn't always be taken care of by a nanny. Qian Yishan thought twice and had to take another day off. Fortunately, the leader was considerate and approved immediately after patting him on the shoulder. Sitting on the bench on the lawn in front of the inpatient department, Qian Yishan held the phone and was lost in thought for a long time before making up his mind and dialing his sister's number. Yihan, can you give me Zhang Lingzi's contact information? Asterisk. This is how to use video recording, right? After a while, I finally learned it. Don't worry Anan, Grandma will definitely take a beautiful picture of you, and I will send it to you, Sister Zixi, when the time comes. Gao Lan clicked to save the video he had just taken on his phone, and heard a rhythmic knock on the door. Who is it? Grandma, it's me. Xiaolei, when did you become so polite? Anan, go and open the door for him. Su Ling'an responded and stood up and walked towards the door. Outside the door, Gan Lei stood stiffly behind Mr. Zhang. He hesitated for a moment but did not say that the person who just knocked on the door was not him at all. With this hesitation, the door in front of you was opened. Su Ling'an looked at his grandfather who was standing outside the door wearing a grey striped suit, tie and top hat. His eyes moved to the crutch in his hand, he pursed his lips and stepped aside. Please come in. Hey, Zhang Nashuan responded, and his face that was originally a little worried was suddenly filled with surprise. Anan doesn't need to be so polite to grandpa, he said and stepped through the door. Su Lei followed behind, met Su Ling'an's staring eyes, and quickly explained, I just came from behind and saw this old man already standing at the door. Sister Gao. Gao Lan stood up and said, Mr. Zhang, sit down quickly. Anan said you were busy over there, but I didn't expect you to find time to come over. We are getting ready to set off. Zhang Nashuan knew as soon as he heard that the child Anan did not tell her grandmother what happened that night. Similarly, the elderly cannot bear the stimulation. So he swallowed his apology and said, sending Anan to school is such an important thing. This is the only time in my life that I can catch up. No matter how busy I am, I have to rush here. Gao Lan poured him a glass of water, drink some water first, and then we'll set off. Su Lei didn't dare to sit down. Where's your luggage? I'll move it to the car for you first. Zhang Nashuan put down the cup and nodded, yes, 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 I specially asked Zhang Ye to drive a car with a large space today. You can put everything in the trunk, so there is no need to take a taxi. After speaking, he looked at Su Ling'an again, there is also the small apartment. Grandpa has added some more things. Anan has time to go over and see if the decoration is okay. Su Ling'an looked at how much more white hair he had after taking off his top hat than the previous 2 days, and finally nodded slightly. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 430. Chapter 430. Let's get a divorce. Brother, why are you asking for Miss Jiang's contact information for no reason? My sister-in-law is still recovering from her injuries in the hospital. You must not do anything to regret my sister-in-law. Besides, my little niece is still very cute. Besides, Qian Yishan paused on the phone, Miss Jiang probably doesn't like you either. Qian Yishan felt dumbfounded by her lecture. What are you thinking about? I'm looking for her for a serious matter, and I have absolutely nothing else to do. What business can you have with Miss Jiang? I'm over 30 years old, so don't bluff me. Qian Yishan's tone became calm, it's really something serious. I suspect that your sister-in-law's injury this time may have something to do with Zhang Lingzi. How is this possible? Qian Yishan's intuition was that it was impossible. I heard from Yaya that Miss Jiang is currently filming in Liangchuan, thousands of kilometers away from the imperial capital. How could it be related to her sister-in-law's injury? Besides, between them, what kind of contradiction can there be? Brother, you are too suspicious. Qian Yishan also felt that his suspicion was groundless, but he still clearly remembered the first thing his wife said when she woke up, and she called Zhang Lingzi's name. The tone was full of resentment. He thought about it over and over again, but he always felt that something was wrong. The silence lasted for a long time. Qian Yushan calmed down and thought that his second brother, who had always been calm, would not doubt Master Zhang without any basis. After hesitating for a moment, he relaxed his attitude and said, Brother, you want to? If you are really doubtful, I can give you my contact information. But Miss Jiang is filming in the Gobi Desert and the signal is not very good. It depends on your luck whether you can contact her. Thank you, Yihan. But after getting the contact information, Qian Yishan looked at the number quietly for a while, until he could almost memorize it, and then dialed it. No one heard. After automatically hanging up, he played it again. Still no one answered. With his personality, dialing the same number twice in a row is already the limit, but this time, he dialed it a third time. Asterisk. Sister Zixi, an unknown number called. Do not recognize. Well, I haven't seen it before, but it shows the number of the imperial capital. Just when Zhang Lingzi was about to say, just pick it up, she saw the health director standing not far away waving towards her, hang up now, and call back when you have time. Numbers that are not in the contact list can be answered or not by her. Lu Zhengzheng nodded and was about to hang up, but his hand accidentally touched the answering machine. When he looked up, he saw that Sister Zixi had left. Oops, can I still hang up now? At the other end of the phone, Qian Yishan finally waited until the call was connected. He quickly said, "Don't worry yet, I'm looking for Miss Zhang. I am Qian Yishan, Zhang Lingxuan's husband. Please forgive me, Miss." Lu Zhengzheng, who was about to hang up, heard the voice coming from the phone, stamped his feet on the spot, and chased after Zhang Lingzi. "Sister Zixi, I accidentally dialed and the call was connected." The other party said he was Qian Yishan, Zhang Lingxuan's husband. "Do you know him?" Zhang Lingzi paused and reached out to take the phone. "Mr. Qian. I'm taking the liberty to make this call." Zhang Lingzi saw that Wei Xiao had originally wanted to talk to her but then shut up, and was too lazy to be polite. "Come to ask for an explanation for your wife." Qian Yishan's heart suddenly sank, and he quickly denied it. "I just want to know what happened at the Shenqi Club the night before yesterday." Zhang Lingzi chuckled after hearing this. "Zhang Lingxian didn't tell you?" "That's right, she probably doesn't have the face to talk to you. But why did you think of coming to me for an answer?" Before Qian Yishan could think of words to come back, Zhang Lingzi thought of Yunyi's dream before and couldn't help but guess, could she have scolded me while dreaming at night? Qian Yishan. How should he respond? However, Zhang Lingzi didn't intend to ask for an answer from him, and the silence at this moment was enough to represent everything. She wanted to destroy Anan. My men only pierced one of her hands, which was enough to show mercy. Qian Yishan couldn't help but take a breath. There is no need to say much between smart people. "Okay, I understand, thank you Miss Zhang for letting me know." Polite. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Lingzi met the wide-eyed eyes of Wei Xiao and Lu Zhengzheng on the other side. She handed the phone back as if nothing had happened. "What does Director Wei want to say to me?" "Oh, what, there's a battle scene in the snow that's going to be postponed. I'll let you know in advance." Adjourned. Why? I checked the weather forecast for this month, and also asked the indigenous residents here on the phone. They all said that the first snow in Liangchuan this year is likely to be earlier than in previous years, and it will fall around the end of the month. Since there is real snow, then there is no need to fake it. As soon as Zhang Lingzi heard this, she knew that this person was being too serious again, so she nodded indifferently. "Then it will be postponed. I have no objection." "Yeah, well, the crew's protective measures will definitely be in place by then, so you won't get frostbite," Wei Xiao assured her righteously, but hesitated to speak. "Besides, that's what you just said, who wants to destroy Anan? You also pierced one of his hands. This sounds really cruel." Zhang Lingzi looked at him with a smile. Wei Xiao was made to cough dryly. "I'm just a little curious. If you can't tell me, just pretend I didn't ask. If there's nothing else, I'll go back." Wei Xiao couldn't help but scratch the back of his head when he saw Zhang Lingzi turning away, and then turned to look at the assistant who was working silently with his head down. "Do you think I, as a director, am becoming less and less authoritative?" The assistant looked up at him and said, "It's good that you know." Wei Xiao. Qian Yishan returned to the ward somewhat distracted. "Looking at my wife who was still sleeping soundly after being injected with a sedative, I felt like my mind was in a mess." Although Zhang Lingzi simply said, I want to destroy Anan. It didn't stop him from thinking about his wife's intention of doing this. He and Zhang Lingxian met by accident. After all, they were from two different worlds. We happened to see each other right, and they were both of marriageable age, so it was natural for them to get married. It was also after spending more time together after marriage that he gradually got to know his wife better. I know that she is career-oriented, has ambitions and fierceness that are not inferior to those of men, and has a somewhat domineering temperament. But he never thought that this man would actually attack his blood relatives for profit. This time he really touched his bottom line. This kind of Zhang Lingxian also made him feel strange as never before. No wonder both himself and his father-in-law and mother-in-law were vague about him. The granddaughter was injured, and the old man didn't even have a phone call. Just because, it's your own fault. Qian Yishan didn't know how long he sat by the bed until he noticed movement on the bed in front of him. He raised his eyes and met a pair of eyes that were a little confused at first and then became angry. Seeing that Zhang Lingxian was about to curse angrily, he smiled bitterly. Lingxian, I know everything. What do you know, you? Lingxian, let's get a divorce. End of this chapter.